I once read a self-helpy kind of book. Well, I read the first few pages of it, and but the guy who wrote this book, and I can't remember his name, but he said if you're thinking about taking a leap, and if you're thinking about like some big dream you've got, and you're hesitating to go for it, he recommended taking out a piece of paper and writing down the worst case scenario. Like, if it went as badly as it could possibly go, play it out on paper, and then ask yourself, could I survive that? And if the answer is yes, then why not go for it, he said, because the chances of it turning out the worst possible case are pretty unlikely. So anywhere from there to working out well, you've chased your dream, and you've done what you were most passionate about and excited about doing. And in that song, I always think reaching out, going deep, you know, these things are rising up. These things are a little scary to do. If you've ever asked anybody out, it's scary. Applied for a job, scary. Bought a house, scary. Got married, scary. Had a kid, scary. These are all, you know, vast unknowns. So what if, and here I'm going to give away the answer to the question I asked before we sang it, but what if you and I knew we were already safe before we even started, right? It's a radical, it's kind of a subversive thought. You know, the TSA doesn't want you to think you're already safe. Their job is to assume we're not, right? A doctor is looking for problems. That's their job. Economists look for clouds on the horizon, and so on. So, but what if in our own lives, day to day, we believed that we were actually already safe and already home? Those are the sneaky lines in that song for me. The thing that I'm daring myself to feel, even for a couple of minutes at a time. Here's another song to sing together. Get ready, my soul. I'm diving in. Want to sing that with me? Get ready, my soul. I'm diving in. I'm diving in to the deepest kind of love, to the sweetest kind of life. Get ready, my soul. Everything I've ever done, everything I've ever seen, everything I've lost or won, everything I've ever dreamed has brought me here to the present moment, here to a new beginning, here, and I'm seeing life so clearly now. Get ready, my soul. I'm diving in. I'm diving in. Get ready, my soul. Diving in. I'm diving into the deepest kind of love, to the deepest kind of love. sweetest kind of life, to the sweetest kind of life. Get ready, my soul. Get ready, my soul.
Won't you join me in prayer right now? We are already there, already home. We are safe in our eternal home. We affirm that, and we know it to be true. And in this moment, in this time, we are getting ready, our hearts opening wide to what is here for us now in this moment. And we send this same feeling, this knowing out into the world, holding it for others as well. That they would know they are safe, they are home. That their souls are ready for what is right and what is true. And so it is. Amen. Amen. Won't you join me now in speaking the invocation? Together, there is only one presence and one power in the universe and in my life, the all-loving goodness of God. Thank you, Daniel.
I know you think you still have so much left to do. I know you feel you still have something left to prove. You're sure there's miles to go, but that just isn't true. Nothing of this world is a reflection on you. You're already good, I already know. Your heart has been obvious from the get-go. You've already given the love that you were born to give. So take a deep breath, look up at the stars, the whole universe, celebrate who you are. You've left an echo of perfection wherever you've stood. You're already good. I know it flies in the face of how it's supposed to be. They say it won't come easy. They say that nothing's ever free. But I'm here to tell you that the opposite is true. The most precious thing on earth is the eternal part of you. You're already good, I already know. Your heart has been obvious from the get-go. You've already given the love that you were born to give. So take a deep breath, look up at the stars, the whole universe, celebrate who you are. You've left an echo of perfection wherever you've stood. You've left an echo of perfection wherever you've stood. You're already good. I don't know about you, but I approximately never have that feeling. Hair's thinner, belly's bigger, bank account's a little dry. The last thing I said to my wife yesterday may not have been the nicest, or I might not have smiled at my son when he was being a goofball, and instead I got annoyed. Or the last song I wrote wasn't great, or I procrastinated something important for another couple of minutes or a couple of months or a couple of decades. Still haven't been on the in a Grammy nomination. Still, you know, I mean, you could play it out wherever you want to go with it. The house isn't big enough, the car isn't fancy enough, or paid off, or whatever. Thought I was going to be working out every day, and instead once, you know. Whatever it is you've got. And everybody's got it. Everybody has got it. I mean, you name the person you hold up as the most centered, contented, calmest inside, I promise you, there's a storm brewing in there. There's a yearning. I remember I'm Jewish. I grew up going to synagogue, so we didn't learn anything about Jesus. We didn't even say the name Jesus ever. When I first learned about like some of the teachings of Jesus and some of the stories in college, when I voluntarily just like took a weekend class taught by the campus Christian thing. And I was just curious, and I sat there, and I was just blown away by how compelling the pitch was. I don't mean that in a marketing way, although it sounds like a marketing thing. You know, how beautiful the idea was. But because I was a complete outsider, I heard these, you know, some of the stories with fresh ears. And I remember hearing the story for the first time of how Jesus goes into the temple and sees somebody doing business there and loses his mind. But mind is not the word I'd use if I wasn't in a church. And right, throws things around, and you can kind of picture somebody having a temper tantrum. And why did he do that? Because he had a very strong feeling about how the temple should feel, right? So it's not like he. Let's say, for argument's sake, that he had a personal, actually familial relationship with God. Then you would think that he would have the opportunity to say, God, that's kind of rude, huh, that they're doing business in the temple. And maybe God would say, you know what, I'm God, I don't take these things personally. Maybe. I'm just speculating, you know. But no, Jesus had a plan, had a vision of it, and he was attached to it. It mattered to him. And he had a temper. I mean, you don't really picture Buddha having a temper. You know what I mean? Except that Buddha had an attachment too, even though Buddhism is as a teaching is really about non-attachment. Buddha himself was attached to not talking about what he had realized about life. He was a guy. He was a guy who sort of demanded of himself that he would have clarity about what life was about. He actually demanded a revelation of himself, more or less, as far as I could tell from my reading of it. And he sat down under a tree, a Bodhi tree, which is where, if you've ever heard anything called Bodhi tree, like a bookstore or something, that's where it comes from. And this guy sat down under the tree and demanded to demanded to understand what life was about. And he had this realization, oh, it's the demand that's the cause of my suffering. It's actually it's the yearning, the longing, the wanting, the attempting to shape or fix or force. That's the source of suffering. If I could let things go as they will go, then I will have the kind of peace of mind that all of humankind has always dreamed of. That was his realization. So he had his realization, his revelation, you could call it, and started talking about it with people he knew personally, and they were like, man, this is good stuff. You should be teaching this. And he said, no, I don't want to teach it. That is the exact opposite of what my revelation just showed me. I don't need to go around convincing people that I have learned something they don't know yet. I'm not in that business. I'm not in any business. And he had to be coaxed into teaching, which means Buddha had an attachment to being early retired. Right? He's not the only, I would love to be early retired. And he had a realization that really did its best to talk him out of working for a living. Right? Think of who else do you think of as standard bearers of peace and surrender? The Dalai Lama is another good one. I would love to meet the guy. I mean, he sounds like a hoot. He really does. He is known for being lighthearted, warm-hearted, funny, insightful. I get it. But he has an attachment. His attachment is to a free Tibet. That has been his, among other things, that's been his life's work. He came into this world, the leader of a free people that have not, on earth anyway, in this sort of earthly way, been free. They have suffered. And he has been attached politically to freeing his own people. Well, that attachment has caused him suffering. And has, it is like any other attachment. It's like wanting a fancier car. Maybe more noble, definitely more noble, but you get what I'm saying. It's an attachment. So, in other words, point a finger at anybody. Look for anybody who you think is walking around this symbol of enlightenment and peace and surrender and trust. And I will show you somebody with a cause. Gandhi wasn't surrendered. He didn't use nonviolence to demonstrate that he didn't care whether India gained its independence. He used nonviolence as a tool to gain its independence. When he instructed his followers to stand and be shot at, which he essentially did, he wasn't telling them to give up. He was telling them this is the way to win the conscience of our enemy. This is the way to stir them to their innate compassion. It was a strategy. He was attached to an outcome. So rewind. So I've just, these are obviously grand and absurdly heroic causes. So I'm not any of those things. I'm not going to presume you're not either. But if you're not, and you're thinking about something that leads you to not feel on any given day that you're not already good, you haven't gotten it done, you haven't made the money, you haven't built the business, you haven't found the spouse, you haven't divorced the spouse, you haven't built the church, you haven't grown the church, you haven't gotten the degree, you haven't used the degree, you started the book, but you haven't finished the book, reading it or writing it. Well, join the club of everybody. Everybody. So, let's say hypothetically you're already safe and you're already home. Is it conceivable that the thing that's been haunting you or haunting me isn't as important as we think it is? Is it possible that the finish line ain't the thing? I am a child of two lawyers, and when I say that sentence, like, is it possible that it's okay for me to never, I'm writing a musical right now, right? And it's hard. And it's cool, it's fun, but it's hard. And the first draft had 100 pages, and 45 new songs, right? And the second draft is murdering me in the effort to cut that thing in half because it's just way too long. Well, if I never finish the musical, have I failed? If you get married and then you get divorced, have you failed? If you start a business and it never becomes self-sustaining, successful, wealth-creating, was it a failure? If you learn how to tap dance but you never perform, was it a waste of time? If you start college but don't finish it, did you make a mistake? Anybody hard on themselves for any of these things? If you start a diet but never finish it at your goal weight, are you an idiot for having started? Or are you weak for having failed? You know, these are loaded words, and I'm using them in quotes if you want them to be. I'm saying, how do you feel about these things? How do you feel about yourself that way? Do you feel like you have already given the love that you were born to give? It's, you know, I don't write songs like that song I wrote in 2006. I don't write lines like that too often. The child of lawyers in me says that is some seriously cheesy writing. It does. You're already good. I already know. Your heart has been obvious from the get-go. Have you ever lost somebody, whether to life circumstance or they actually pass away, and you're left wondering if they knew how you felt about them? Or you were left feeling like there was a sentence you always wanted to say to them but didn't get the chance or didn't take the chance? For me, there's something that I say often to somebody when I find out they've lost a spouse or a friend or a parent or a pet. What I'll say is the one thing that I'll want to know, I think, under such circumstance is they were lucky to have you in their life and they knew you loved them. That seems to be a very common feeling of regret. That I didn't tell them. I didn't tell them I forgave them, you know, or I didn't apologize. So are you already good? Am I? What if you never lose the weight? What if you never get the Tesla? What if I never get the Grammy? You know, have you and I done what we came to do already? Are you feeling hungry still? In the unsatisfied way? What do I do if I'm not chasing anything? What do I do if I've got everything that I need? It's a question that no one's prepared me to answer. Where do I go if I'm right where I'm supposed to be? Where do I go if wherever I am home? It's a mystery. No one can give me an answer. If the usual way doesn't work anymore, if there's no map for what life has in store, what if the race is over and we all automatically win? What if the game is ended long before it even begins? What if the test has been taken and we're all passing again and again? If the race is over, what then? What do I say if it's all perfect anyway? What do I say if I'm not here to change anyone? It's a question I truly don't know how to answer. How do I live if my life is eternity? How do I live if I'm no longer afraid to die? It's a mystery. No one can give me an answer. If the usual way doesn't work for me now, well, that's a void I know nothing about. What if the race is over and we all automatically win? What if the game is ended long before it even begins? What if the test has been taken and we're all passing again and again? If the race is over, what then? What is the purpose of time here on earth? How do I now define my death and birth? For that matter, what is my life really worth in the end? What's mine to give and what's mine to receive? Whom do I worship? What do I believe? It seems every answer comes right back to me in the end. What if the race is over and we all automatically win? What if the game is ended long before it even begins? What if the test has been taken and we're all passing again and again? If the race is over and we're all born victorious, if the race is over, what then? I went to a concert last night in Chicago, a WFMT concert, a folk concert, and the performer was fantastic. And he talked about Woody Guthrie, whose birthday is this week, 120 years ago or something like that. And he talked about Woody's most famous song, which he wrote, I didn't know, in response to God Bless America, which irritated him somehow. And Woody was in the midst of a combination of a really cranky and discouraged period in his life, and also in a moment where he was hugely prolific. The book that was read out loud at this concert said that he wrote like 30 songs in a month, this 1 month, and one of those songs, he sort of jotted it down quickly, although he'd been thinking about it for a few weeks, ever since he was traveling across the United States to New York, through Texas, and he said everywhere he went, he heard God Bless America playing, and it drove him nuts. And when he got to New York and was in a little hotel room, he went through this ridiculous month where he just wrote song after song after song. And in the midst of it, one of those songs went like this. This land is your land, this land is my land, from California to the New York Island, from the redwood forest to the Gulf Stream water. This land was made for you and me. Now, to me, that doesn't sound like a middle finger to God Bless America at all, right? Like, I asked the performer last night. I was like, did Woody think that was a bitter sounding song? Because there's no bitterness in that song at all. It's not like he's refuting something. He's like, no. He said, here's the thing. He said his daughter, Woody's daughter, said later that it was just one page in a stack of pages, right? He was writing whatever he felt, whatever he thought of, and that happened to be one of them, number 16 or whatever of that month of writing. And I thought of it this morning as I was thinking about what I was going to say and share with you today, and what I'm going to sort of help, sort of share with you and facilitate a little bit, if I can, this afternoon for those of you coming back for my little workshop, is I sometimes say, because I think of vacations that I've taken, and I have found, I don't know about you, but I have found that you can book a vacation solid and make incredible sounding plans. We're going to go jet skiing for those 2 hours, then we're going to go to this restaurant that got great reviews, and then we're going on a blah 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 blah, and then and then we can rest from 4 to 5:15, before dinner, and then at 4 o'clock you go for a stroll. And you walk into a little shop, and you find like the most beautiful object you've ever seen, and you bring it home, and it becomes like one of your most cherished objects. And it's the hour that you didn't plan that turns out to be the sweetest. The person you didn't plan on meeting, who turns out to be your best friend or your spouse. The class you didn't plan on taking in high school, but you were forced to. That turns out to be your life's passion for astronomy or calculus or history, right? The unexpected, unplanned, unintended turns out to be, a lot of the time anyway, in fact, most of the time. I'm going to go ahead and say most of the time, the things that are best in your life, sweetest in your life, richest in your life, not money-wise, richest in your life, showed up on 0 to-do lists for you, and no one ever coached you into it. Like, it wasn't a plan. The person you love the most, the profession you love, the hobby you love, if you trace back where you got it, in my experience, you'll probably end up at a blank space. You won't know. It happened to be I crossed the street that day. I was an economics major in college because I went to Washington University in St. Louis. I had no idea what I was going to major in, and I took economics, microeconomics 101, because it sounded vaguely interesting, and the teacher was so cool. His name was Steve Fazzari, and I actually got a chance to, I was on campus 20 years later and walked by him. Professor Fazzari. He's like, yes. I said, I sat in the front row and asked you way too many questions in 1988 when I took microeconomics from you, and it was such an interesting class. I majored in economics, even though I am now a singer-songwriter. And he laughed out loud, and he said, so I'm not sure, is that a win? Is that a compliment? And I'm like, yes, it is a compliment. It was that inspiring. Well, I didn't plan on, you know what I mean? And by the way, I've employed economics principles the rest of my life. Every day, every time I read the paper, I talk to somebody, I do business, it all comes up. It was not a waste in the slightest, and it was not planned in the slightest. My parents wish it had been law school, but it was not, I didn't squander a minute of it. And if you think about the path you've taken versus the path you thought you were going to take, this is what we're going to talk about this afternoon. If you think about the decisions you thought you were making and the outcomes you expected, and then you take a look at how they actually end up, the question on the table is, is your life, come back to already good, coming back to I'm already there, I'm already home, already safe. The question on the table is it okay that you and I are not actually in charge of this thing that we're doing? Is it okay that the process is mysterious, the outcome looks like nothing that we planned? Is it okay? Are we, in fact, safe even when we're about to jump out of an airplane with a parachute strapped to our back? Are we, in fact, already home when we're halfway around the world, or in a state or a city or a profession or a physical condition or a diagnosis or a hospital room? Are we still right where we ought to be? It's not always an easy thing to admit, to face, to come to terms with. Are you and I fighting on a daily basis against where life has actually brought us, what we actually look like, what our actual health is, what our actual interests are? Do you wish you would have become an accountant? You were supposed to be, you'd have an actual retirement fund if you had, you know? Do you wish, I mean, right? How deep do the regrets go? How many questions do you ask about whether your plan is playing out the way you designed it? Because it probably isn't. And how's that working out? How's the plan working out? But also, maybe more importantly, actually definitely more importantly, how are you feeling about that plan not working out? Because it ain't, right? Admit it. You are not how your parents thought you'd be. There's just no way. Your job didn't turn out the way you thought it was going to turn out. I know a lot of ministers. I sing in houses of worship all the time. You wouldn't believe the things that are not on a minister's job description that they have to do on a daily basis. They don't teach toilet maintenance in ministerial school. But sure enough, you find yourself scrubbing toilets. In music school, they don't teach how to price a product, how to pack it so it doesn't break, how to book air travel so that it doesn't take all the profit out of a gig. But sure enough, that's my job. You know what I'm saying? Life is a more complicated equation than anyone understands. It's okay, in my opinion, it's okay to let the details handle themselves, to do today what's mine to do, to imagine for a second that I'm already good, that the last hour that I've shared with you, my songs and stories and, you know, me being a sarcastic and, you know, that it's okay. Imagine giving a talk, by the way, if you've never done it, right? Doesn't make me nervous at all. But do I second guess it? Oh, everybody does, no matter how confident they appear. Everybody does. So imagine you've given a talk and you go home, or in my case, you go find Giordano's Pizza, which is what I do when I come to town. Imagine imagine you finished giving a talk, and then you go sit down at your favorite meal. Do you replay the talk you gave? Of course you do. Do you tear it apart, or do you say, it was good? Does saying it was good feel like giving yourself a free pass? Right? A therapy session, a business plan, a vacation, was it good enough? Do you feel enough with any frequency at all? It's an elusive feeling, I think, for a lot of people. Have you told the people you love that you love them enough? Do they already know? If you're an artist, are you already good enough at your art? What if you were? That's what the song If the Race is Over is about. What if the chase for better, bigger, richer, more powerful, more famous, what if the chase, the race, was over? The two words, by the way, in that whole song that are the key, like I said at the beginning, in my mind, what then? Because taking out that judgment And that harshness, it wasn't good enough, you don't run fast enough, you don't make enough, you didn't write a good enough song, you don't sing loud enough, you didn't win enough awards, you didn't make enough money, you didn't, all these things, if you took out all the not enoughs from your life on it today, just today, if you took them out, what then? What would you do? Would you have a lot of extra time on your hands? I know I would. It would make the day a lot more relaxing. And I'd have to come to terms with the fact tonight that when I put my head on the pillow, I did the best I could do. I'm through asking where I'm going. I've been asking all my life. I've grown tired of all this wondering when everything seems to turn out right. So when my mind needs something to do, wants to know the future, I whisper this: I'm okay. I've always been, and I'll always be that way. You want to sing that line with me? It can be uncomfortable. I'm okay. I'm okay. I've always been, and I'll always be that way. And I'll always be that way. So here goes nothing. I'm taking a chance. I'm opening up, knowing that I'm in good hands. And here goes everything. It's all on the line. Oh, but I'm not afraid this time. Some say it's crazy, some say naive, to close my eyes and take the leap. But I know better, 'cause I believe even in the dark my soul can see. So when my mind plays its usual game, oh, my answer is always the same. Yeah. Here goes nothing. I'm taking a chance. I'm opening up, knowing that I'm in good hands. And here goes everything. It's all on the line. Oh, but I'm not afraid this time. Here goes nothing. I'm taking a chance. I'm opening up, knowing that I'm in good hands. And here goes everything. It's all on the line. Oh, but I'm not afraid this time. No, I'm not afraid this time, 'cause I'm okay. I've always been, and I'll always be that way. I'm okay. I've always been. I've always been, and I'll always be, and I'll always be that way.
Yeah. Give me a moment. One moment. What a message. And I'm a firm believer that we receive and we get exactly what we need to hear at the right moment. I believe online, I believe in this room. This is your right place and your right moment for this message today. My heart is full. Thank you so much, Daniel. Thank you so much. I love this. I love this, that we've created a space where we can come together and hear the truth. And really, we talk about hearing the truth and allowing it to set us free. Don't you feel expanded right now? It's such a blessing. Thank you for coming into our community, what we've created here. Thank you. Thank you all for being part of this unity community. You know, part of making sure that this is here, not only for us, but for others as they're drawn into that space of deeper knowing. We have an opportunity right now, every week, to give from our hearts as we are compelled to give. So I'm going to invite you now into a time of offering. Online, you can certainly go to unityinnaperville.org and make your offering there. You can also feel free to send a check. Is the P.O. Box up here? I'll make sure I get it right. I think it's P.O. Box. Okay, I don't see it. Is it up there? 9733, Naperville, Illinois, 60567, I believe. You can double check that on the website as well, right? Is it up there? Okay, you've got it. So thank you in advance for being a part of all that is unfolding here at Unity in Naperville. And so I'm going to take the moment to call the ushers up. And Daniel, will you bless us with another song? Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Kim Char. That's very nice of you again. Okay. I think I got a song in mind. It's a little different, but it's actually not entirely different. It'll sound different, but it doesn't say it's anything different than what I've said today. And that was already a contorted enough sentence. I don't need to say anything else. So what I want to very quickly do is invite you to stick around. So I'm not a performer. Never mind the fact that I'm kind of a mess is a little strong, but I mean, ADD brain, I'm just kind of doing a lot of different things. And when I get up to do Sunday morning or anything else, or I do Monday night shows on Facebook, you're always invited to Daniel Nahmod USA. I never remember to mention it, by the way. That's the first time I've mentioned it in like a year. So I'm very proud of myself right now. Anyway, but you're always invited Monday nights, 8 o'clock Chicago time, live, Facebook. You're welcome to come. But no, even when I do those shows, no matter what I do, it's really not an act. I'm actually not. It's not shtick. I haven't said what I said today before. Even if I've told the same story, I haven't said it the same way. In other words, it's not a show. It's really just me thinking out loud and sharing with you some songs. This afternoon, the workshop is also not a show, and it is not a solve all your life's problems sales pitch. It's, let's say, 2.5 hours. Did you announce a time? Okay, so it starts 12:30, 12:45 at the latest. We'll start in here. Here's the deal. The deal is the song "If the Race Is Over" was written in a time at a time I took in 2006, 3 months, which is a long time ago now. I took 3 months in Moab, Utah, on sabbatical. I live in L.A. I grew up in Skokie, but I live in L.A. And L.A. is horrible. If anybody's ever told you you should move to L.A., they're lying to you. It's the pit of despair, to paraphrase, what movie is that? Princess Bride. The pit of despair. Obviously, there's wonderful people everywhere, but the city, oh, got nothing on Chicago. I mean, you know. Anyway, that's enough of that before I pick any more fights. So, anyway, I took 3 months away from L.A. and rented a little house in a little town in Utah called Moab, which is red rock country, right next to Arches and Canyonlands National Parks. It's some of the most beautiful scenery, I'm going to go ahead and say, in the world, even though I haven't visited the whole world. Certainly in the United States. Millions of people go every year to take pictures of these amazing sights. And I was there in the winter, which for a Chicagoan didn't scare me, but apparently scared everybody else because I was there entirely alone in the national parks with no other people, sometimes for days. I took naps under the arches with no planes, people, animals, cars, no sounds of any kind for hours at a time. It was spectacular. It was by far the quietest and calmest I've ever been before or since. And at that time, I mentioned Woody Guthrie wrote, you know, his 30 songs in 30 days, which doesn't sound like a lot to me, actually, to be honest, because I've done that. And that doesn't mean they're all good. And he wouldn't, I'm sure Woody wouldn't say they were either. I wrote 125 songs in my 3 months in Moab. Most of them are horrible. And some of them my wife hasn't even heard. And the ones that she has heard, she begs me never to play for anybody else. So, but that's, of course, that's a part of what I was talking about with the Woody example and with life in general, is you do, in the moment, what feels true and kind and of service and purposeful, and we do our best when we can to surrender the idea that we're in charge of how things are going to turn out. And writing songs is a perfect example of that. Most of the time, it's going to be bad. It's accidentally good when it's good, right? Any artist, any honest artist will tell you. A painter, a sculptor, a movie maker. There's a reason why every movie maker makes stinkers. It's because they're not actually in charge of how it turns out. Even the director and the producer and the stars. And that's the way life is, in my observation. So this 2.5-hour thing, 12:30 to 3 or so, this thing is an exploration for you and for me of what it is that you and I are laying up at night worrying about, feeling like we're either that we're in charge of it or that we better be in charge of it. Things that if they work out, we take the credit, and if they don't work out, we take the blame or the shame. Things that cause our knuckles to hurt from holding on to the steering wheel so tight. Whether it's personal life, professional life, financial life, health life, political life, American, you know, the story we're in right now. There's a lot to be stressed about and a lot to attempt to manage. So how's that working out for you and for me? So we spend 2.5 hours. Like I said, it's not an act and it's not shtick. I ask you some questions. I sing you some songs. We take a few minutes throughout to write and think, and you can share out loud if you want. There will be no kumbaya, no eye contact with your neighbor, no holding hands. That's not my style. It's just a couple of hours of quiet contemplation and consideration of where you're at, what you're feeling, how your life is going, where the worries are, where the stress is, and where you might be able to take a deeper breath and relax your hand off the steering wheel a tiny bit. That's it. And it's all based on these songs that I wrote, 11 of the better songs I wrote in Utah that became an album called Water. And in fact, that leads me that's away from the song I was going to sing. And now I'll sing you the song called Water before I outside, the following is the entire commerce-related moment for the entire thing here, and that is that I have a table out there that looks like the Namaud family craft show, and that is because that is kind of how my family is. My wife is a silversmith. Her jewelry is beautiful, and she's won awards, and she's self-taught, and she is a gutsy, creative kind of a powerhouse, secret powerhouse of a woman. She's an introvert to my extrovert. She would have told me to stop talking a long time ago. And she would have been right. And but she makes jewelry, so that's why there's shiny things on half of the table. I proudly display her jewelry and sell it. It's not cheap. It's solid silver. It's handmade. It's real stones, everything. But it's special. And that's it for that. Then I have some woodworking. I've just made some hearts. I had made some hearts, wood hearts that you put on a wall or on a shelf, and they're very cool. And they're not easy to make, but I'm making a batch of them right now. And the first 4, I just finished the first handful of them 2 days ago, before I came here to town. And so that's what's on the table there. And I have a couple of boxes that I make out of exotic wood. And then there's the music. The last thing I'll say is CDs. Of course, I have. If you don't have a CD player, you can get an album on a download that goes onto your phone in like 90 seconds. Or the kind of the coolest musical product in my life these days is the USB drive. I was talking to a couple people outside about it. It's a flash drive. If you don't know what a USB drive is, you don't want it. I've sold enough doorstops and coasters in my life. I don't need to sell another one. But my flash drive is a complete collection of my inspirational music, and it currently has 14 albums on it. It's about 180 songs, complete lyrics, and like 20 extra songs. In fact, I'm pretty sure that song Already Good. That song's not on an album, but I believe it's one of the bonus songs on the USB drive, and that's I'm not going to call it affordable or cheap. $5 to one person is $5,000 to another. But it is a very inexpensive by album thing. It's like I asked $65 for this flash drive with 14 albums on it. And I love selling it, not only because it helps support my family, but because I know somebody's going home with so many songs to listen to from so many years. It's my life story, you know. And so that's what this little flash drive is. That's the end of the story about what's on the table. But it is a lot of heart and soul in those things on that table. Feel free to stop by the way. No pressure sell. That's the end of the commerce. All right? So come by and say hi. And you can oogle and ogle my wife's work if you want. I'm not going to try to sell you anything. All right, so here's the song called Water, which opens the album called Water, which gives you a sense, one more little taste of what this afternoon will feel like. And thank you for having me. Thank you for having me, Kim Char. And nice job on the sound back there. I appreciate it. Yeah. I've seen my share of struggle when I thought that I knew best, when I've sailed through a storm instead of stopping to rest. But it always seems the hardest when I've made up my stubborn mind. Well, I'm changing my ways this time. Wanna be like water coming down a mountain into shadowy canyons, flowing from pool to stream. Wanna be like water, head uphill no more. I am bound for the sea. Have you ever seen an eagle head straight into the wind? He doesn't pick a fight, he spreads his wings and just gives in. And in the end he always makes it home just fine. Guess he knows that every storm subsides. Wanna be like water coming down a mountain into shadowy canyons, flowing from pool to stream. Wanna be like water, head uphill no more. I am bound for the sea. I'll let nature take its course. No more thinking that I know where this river's meant to go. I'm sorry, I'm flashing back to Moab because I was just talking about it. And that line, I want to be like water coming down a mountain into a shadowy canyon, flowing from pool to stream, I can still see it. This was February or so of 2006. I can still see the spot I was sitting in, because I was sitting in a slot canyon watching snow melt drip down about 1,000 feet a sheer cliff wall into a frozen pool, had a sheet of ice on top of it, and there was water underneath it, and then there was a trickle of water heading out of that little pool, down out of the Slot Canyon and into the Colorado River, which runs next to Moab. And I can still picture the spot where I wrote this song, sitting on a boulder that had fallen into that Slot Canyon sometime. It looked permanent, but it wasn't, and nothing is. I have railed against the stars for the cards that I've been dealt, for the lottery I've never won, for the heartache that I've felt. But it always seems when I let go of expectation and regret, life has plenty of surprises for me yet. I want to be like water coming down a mountain into shadowy canyons, flowing from pool to stream. Want to be like water, head uphill no more. I am bound for the sea. Want to be like water coming down a mountain into shadowy canyons, flowing from pool to stream. Want to be like water, head uphill no more. I am bound for the sea.